Kang Daeho stared at the strange signals on his screen. The radio waves came from a small blue planet in the outer arm of the galaxy. He had been studying alien species for 20 years, but these signals were different. They moved through space, faster than they should. They carried sounds and pictures that made no sense. "Minji, come look at this," Daeho called to his partner. Park Minji floated over in the zero gravity of their research ship. She was the best communication expert in the Galaxy Council. Minji looked at the data and frowned. These beings learned to fly only 60 years ago. Now they have nuclear weapons and space travel. This is impossible. The species called themselves humans. They lived on a planet they named Earth. Daeho watched their television shows and listened to their music. These humans were loud, chaotic, and unpredictable. They fought wars but also created beautiful art. They destroyed their environment, but also tried to save it. They were a contradiction. "Look at their technology growth," Minji said, pointing to a chart. "Most species take 1,000 years to go from basic flight to space travel. Humans did it in 50 years. Daeho felt worried. In all his studies, he had never seen anything like this. Humans seemed to break every rule about how intelligent life should develop. They took risks that other species would never take. They tried impossible things and somehow made them work. The council station was huge, built from the combined technology of 12 different alien races. It had taken 3,000 years to build. The council believed in slow, careful progress. They studied everything for decades before making any changes. It kept the galaxy peaceful and stable. Ambassador Velthari called an emergency meeting. She was tall and blue, with 4 arms and ancient eyes. Her species, the Zephyrians, were known for their wisdom. They had been part of the council for 8,000 years. "We have a problem," Velthari announced to the gathered representatives. "The humans are dangerous, not because they are violent, but because they change everything around them." She showed them reports from the outer systems. Wherever humans had been detected, other species started acting differently. Trade routes that had been stable for millennia suddenly changed. Peaceful species started asking questions about their governments. Some even started developing new technologies. "It's like a disease," said another ambassador. "Humans make other species restless. They spread chaos without even trying." Daeho thought about the human broadcasts he had studied. Humans had something called democracy, where everyone got to vote on important decisions. Most council species were ruled by ancient families or computer systems. The idea of letting everyone have a say seemed crazy to most aliens. During the meeting, they received an urgent message. A human ship had been found near the Centauri system. The pilot was alive and asking to speak with someone in charge. Lee. Sunho was young, maybe 30 years old by human standards. He had been traveling in a small probe ship when his engines failed. A council patrol found him drifting in space. He was the first human any of them had met in person. "I'm sorry for the intrusion," Sunho said through the translation device. "My ship broke down. I was trying to reach Proxima Centauri. My people sent me to look for planets we could live on." The council representatives looked at each other in shock. Humans were already trying to spread to other star systems. This was happening much faster than anyone had predicted. "How many ships did your people send out?" Velthari asked. "Maybe 20 or 30, Sunho replied. "We've been launching them for the past few years. Earth is getting crowded and we're worried about putting all our eggs in one basket." Daeho felt his heart sink. If humans were already spreading across space, it might be too late to contain them. He thought about what would happen if human ideas reached the Council's home worlds. Democracy, individual rights, rapid technological change. It would destroy the careful order that had kept peace for thousands of years. "We need to vote on Protocol Zero," Velthari announced. Protocol Zero was the most extreme action the Council could take. It meant complete isolation of a species, cutting them off from all contact with the galactic community. The vote was quick and unanimous. All 12 species agreed that humans were too dangerous to be allowed into galactic society. They would seal off human space and prevent any further contact. "What about the ships they've already sent?" asked one ambassador. "Impossible to track," replied the military commander. Human technology is crude but somehow works beyond our calculations. We'll monitor for any signs of human presence and deal with them as needed. Sunho was returned to his ship with new engines, but no explanation of what he had seen. The council decided it was better to let humans think they were alone in the universe. As the meeting ended, Daiho felt uneasy. He had spent months studying human communications. These beings were smart, adaptable, and stubborn. They didn't give up easily. If they wanted to spread across the galaxy, a simple prohibition might not stop them. He looked at the data one more time. 3 human ships had launched from Earth before Sunho's mission. Their destinations were unknown, and their technology was too primitive to track properly. But something about the humans made Daiho think they were more dangerous than the council realized. Far away in the darkness between stars, Captain Kim Yuna stood on the bridge of the colony ship New Horizon. Her ship carried 50,000 sleeping humans to a new world. They had been traveling for 2 years, using an experimental faster-than-light drive that barely worked. "Captain, we're approaching the target system," reported her navigator. Yuna smiled. Earth had sent out dozens of colony ships before they lost contact with the probe missions. Whatever was out there in the galaxy, humanity would be ready for it. They had learned long ago that survival meant spreading out and taking risks. "Wake the colonists," she ordered. "It's time to build a new home." The Galaxy Council had made their decision to prohibit humans from joining galactic society. They believed they had acted in time to prevent chaos and preserve order, but they were already too late. Humanity had scattered across the stars like seeds in the wind, and some of those seeds were about to take root in ways the Council never imagined. In the vast darkness of space, the future of the galaxy was being written by sleeping humans in metal ships, dreaming of new worlds and new possibilities. Chominsu watched the sunrise over New Terra, the first human colony beyond Earth's solar system. 2 years had passed since the Galaxy Council decided to keep humans isolated. They had no idea that 50,000 humans were already building a new world 300 light-years from Earth. The colony ship New Horizon had found a perfect planet orbiting a yellow star. The air was breathable, the water was clean, and the soil was rich. Captain Kim Yuna had chosen well when she picked this destination from the old star charts. "The wheat is growing faster than expected," reported Dr. Yoon Hana, the colony's chief scientist. "The soil here seems to make everything grow twice as fast as on Earth." Minsu smiled. He had been a soldier on Earth, trained for the worst situations. Now he led a peaceful colony of farmers, scientists, and engineers. Life was good, but he never forgot they might not be alone in the galaxy. Hana had been working on something she called bioadaptation. She studied how human bodies changed in the new environment. The colonists were already showing improvements. They were stronger, healed faster, and could work longer without getting tired. "It's like this planet was made for us," Hana said. "Or maybe we're adapting to it faster than normal. I've never seen changes like this in such a short time." The colony had grown beyond the original 50,000 people. New babies were being born every day, and they seemed even more adapted to their new world than their parents. Children could run faster, see better in low light, and learn languages with amazing speed. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, other human colonies were taking root. The generation ship Wanderer had found a cold planet with underground oceans. The 8 colonists there learned to live in vast cave systems, developing new technologies for underground farming and geothermal energy. Another ship, the Explorer, had landed on a desert world with 3 suns. The humans there had to adapt quickly or die. They created amazing solar collectors and learned to store water in ways that impressed even themselves. Their children could withstand heat that would kill normal humans. Zhang Wanbin was not on any of these colony worlds. He was doing something much more dangerous. For 3 years, he had been living on a council station, pretending to be an alien, called Vexhai. His skin was painted blue, his hair was hidden under an artificial head crest, and he spoke perfect galactic standard. Nobody suspected that he was human. He had studied alien behavior patterns from the old probe data and could act like any council species. He worked as a low-level technician, fixing computers and maintaining life support systems. But his real job was gathering information. What he learned made his blood run cold. The Council had a secret plan called the Cleansing Protocol. If they ever discovered that humans had escaped their home system, they would sterilize Earth completely. Every human on the home planet would die, and the planet itself would be made uninhabitable for 1,000 years. Wanbin sent coded messages to the human colonies through a network of hidden relay stations. The messages were disguised as natural radio signals from dying stars. Only humans would know how to decode them. The colonies began to prepare. They built deep bunkers, developed better weapons, and trained their people for war. But they also did something else. They began reaching out to other species. On the Council world of Nethys Prime, a young human woman lived in secret. Nam Suji had been hidden there since she was a baby, rescued from a crashed human probe by sympathetic aliens. She had grown up learning the ways of the Council species, but she never forgot she was human. Suji worked as a translator in the diplomatic quarter. She spoke 23 alien languages and could understand the thought patterns of different species. She used this skill to identify aliens who were unhappy with the Council's rule. She found many. The Council claimed to bring peace and stability, but many species felt trapped. They had to ask permission for every new technology. Their governments could not change without Council approval. Their people lived the same lives their ancestors had lived for thousands of years. Suji began building a network of rebels and free thinkers. She never told them she was human, but she shared human ideas about freedom and democracy. She taught them about scientific progress and individual rights. Many aliens found these ideas exciting and dangerous. Back on New Terra, Minsu received Wanbin's warning about the Cleansing Protocol. He called together the colony leaders for an emergency meeting. They want to destroy Earth, he told them. We have to assume our homeworld is already lost. We are all that remains of humanity. Dr. Hana had been working on a new project. She had discovered that the bioadaptation process could be accelerated. Humans could be modified to survive on almost
any planet in just a few months.
She also found something even more amazing. The adaptation changes aren't just physical, she explained. They're mental too. Humans on different worlds are developing new ways of thinking. We're becoming more than what we were on Earth. The colonists on the Cold World had developed incredible pattern recognition abilities. Those on the Desert World could calculate complex mathematics in their heads. The New Terra colonists were showing improved intuition and emotional intelligence. We're evolving, Hana said. Not over millions of years, but over decades. Human adaptability isn't just about changing our tools or our environment. We're changing ourselves. This news spread to all the human colonies through Wanbin's communication network. The colonies began sharing their adaptations with each other. They traded genetic data, cultural innovations, and technological breakthroughs. Something unexpected began to happen. The scattered human colonies were not just surviving. They were thriving in ways that surpassed their wildest dreams. Each world was developing unique human subspecies with amazing abilities. But humans were not the only ones changing. On the worlds where humans had made secret contact with local species, those aliens were changing too. They began asking questions about their governments. They started experimenting with new technologies. Some even began demanding democratic reforms. The Council's intelligence services began noticing strange signals in their monitoring networks. Ships were moving in unusual patterns. Trade routes were shifting. Some species were developing new technologies without proper authorization. Ambassador Velthari reviewed the reports with growing concern. The patterns reminded her of something, but she could not identify what it was. The galaxy was becoming restless, and she did not know why. On the edge of Council space, a small alien ship picked up a human distress signal. The ship's captain, a compassionate being called Thelmar, decided to investigate. He found a human escape pod with a woman and her child inside. The woman's name was Dr. Yeren Ko, a scientist from the colony ship Horizon's Dream. Her ship had been damaged by a cosmic storm, and she was the only survivor. Thelmar took her to his home world and helped her recover. Dr. Ko was grateful, but she was also careful. She could not reveal the existence of the human colonies. Instead, she shared her scientific knowledge. She taught Thelmar's people about new farming techniques, medical treatments, and energy production methods. Within months, Thelmar's world had revolutionized its agriculture and eliminated several diseases. The changes were so dramatic that other species began asking questions. How had such rapid progress been possible? The Galaxy Council was beginning to realize that something was very wrong. The careful order they had maintained for thousands of years was starting to crack. Change was spreading across the galaxy like a virus, and they had no idea what was causing it. But in the hidden human colonies, the people knew exactly what was happening. Humanity was doing what it had always done best, adapting, growing, and making everything around them better. The Council's prohibition had come too late. The seeds were already planted and they were beginning to bloom. Lim Jae-won studied the intelligence reports spread across his desk. As the Council's best investigator, he had been assigned to solve the mystery of the spreading chaos. Strange technological advances were appearing in dozens of star systems. Species that had been stable for millennia were suddenly demanding changes to their governments. What the Council did not know was that Jae-won had a secret. His mother had been human, rescued as a child from a crashed probe ship 30 years ago. She had hidden her identity and married his alien father. Jae-won looked like his father's species, but inside he carried human DNA and human instincts. The pattern is clear, Jae-won reported to Ambassador Velthari. Someone is sharing advanced knowledge with primitive species. They're teaching democracy, rapid development techniques and scientific methods that break our standard models. Velthari's forearms moved nervously. Do you think it could be the humans? We isolated them years ago. Jae-won pretended to consider this. Impossible. Our monitors show no human activity outside their home system. This must be someone else. But Jae-won knew the truth. He had been secretly tracking human signals for months. The humans had not just escaped their solar system, they had spread across dozens of worlds. Worse, they were helping other species break free from Council control. On the hidden world of New Terra, Cho Min-soo received a coded message from the underground network. The Council was investigating and they were getting close to the truth. It was time to accelerate their plans. Bai Yunji ran the most dangerous operation in human space. She smuggled refugees from Council worlds to human colonies. Her organization, which the humans called the Underground Railroad, had saved thousands of aliens from oppression. We have another group coming in, Yunji told Min-soo. 50 Kethrani refugees from the Outer Rim. Their homeworld was strip-mined by the Council and they have nowhere to go. The Kethrani were a peaceful species who had lived in harmony with their planet's ecosystem. The Council had given mining rights to another species destroying the Kethrani's home. According to Council law, this was perfectly legal. The Kethrani had no rights because they were classified as a primitive species. When the Kethrani refugees arrived on New Terra, they were amazed by what they found. Humans and aliens worked together as equals. Everyone had a voice in decisions. Technology was shared freely and new ideas were welcomed. This is impossible, said Velketh, the Kethrani leader. How do you maintain order without a ruling class? Dr. Yoon Hana smiled. We don't maintain order. We create it together. Every day, everyone contributes according to their abilities and receives according to their needs. The Kethrani learned quickly. Within weeks, they were sharing their knowledge of ecosystem management with the human colonists. The combination of human adaptability and Kethrani environmental wisdom created breakthrough technologies for sustainable development. This pattern was repeated on dozens of human worlds. Each refugee species brought new knowledge and perspectives. The humans provided freedom and opportunity. Together they created innovations that neither species could have achieved alone. Meanwhile, Hwang Dong-yun was revealing the scope of human preparations. As the colony's military strategist, he had been coordinating defenses for years, but his plans were unlike anything the Galaxy Council expected. We're not preparing to conquer anyone, Dong-yun explained to a gathering of colony leaders. We're preparing to liberate everyone. The Council's biggest weakness is that they rule through fear and control. We rule through cooperation and trust. Human military doctrine was based on protection, not aggression. Their ships were designed to defend multiple worlds simultaneously. Their weapons were non-lethal when possible, meant to disable rather than destroy. Their soldiers were trained as peacekeepers and teachers, not conquerors. When the Council attacks us, Dongyun said, they'll expect us to fight like them, species against species, with the winner taking everything. Instead, we'll show them a different way. We'll fight to protect everyone's freedom, including theirs. The revelation came when J1's investigation led him to a human colony ship that had been operating in Council space for 2 years. The ship, called the Wandering Star, had been disguised as a trading vessel. Its crew had been making contact with oppressed species throughout the galaxy. Captain Song Minho welcomed J1 aboard his ship. "We've been expecting someone like you," he said calmly. The Council was bound to notice eventually. J1 was shocked by what he found. The ship was not just a human vessel. Its crew included members of dozens of different species, all working together. They had been spreading human ideas of freedom and democracy wherever they went. "You're starting revolutions," J1 accused. "No," replied Minho. "We're showing people they can start their own revolutions. There's a difference." On the Council world of Zerion Prime, the Zerion government was facing its first popular uprising in 4,000 years. The people had heard about something called voting and wanted to try it. They were demanding the right to choose their own leaders. Similar uprisings were happening across Council space. The Talvani wanted to reform their caste system. The Tau Mordesh were questioning why their planet's resources all went to off-world corporations. The Zentar were demanding the right to develop their own technology instead of using approved Council designs. "It's spreading like a plague," Velthari reported to the emergency Council session. 17 systems are in rebellion. Our member species are losing control of their populations. The Council's military commander, General Kexran, had a simple solution. "We crush the rebellions and execute the leaders. Order must be maintained." But when the Council fleets arrived at the rebel worlds, they found something unexpected. The rebels were not fighting alone. Human ships were there, defending them. But these were not invasion forces. They were protection fleets, helping the rebels negotiate peaceful transitions to democratic governments. The first major defection came from the Velkari Confederation. Their representative, Ambassador Yul Mesh, stood up in the Council chamber and announced his people's withdrawal from the Alliance. "For 3,000 years we have followed Council law," Yul Mesh declared. "We have maintained order and stability, but we have forgotten what it means to grow, to dream, to become something better. The humans have reminded us." 2 more species followed within days. The Nethari and the Quantari also left the Council, requesting protection under human law. They had seen what human colonies offered: freedom, rapid development, and the chance to reach their full potential. J1 found himself at the center of the crisis. His investigation had revealed the truth. Humans had not just escaped Council. Control they had made it irrelevant. They offered something better than the Council's rigid order: the chance for every species to grow and change. As he prepared his final report, J1 faced a choice. He could reveal everything to the Council and watch as they tried to destroy the human colonies, or he could join the revolution himself. He thought about his human mother who had hidden her identity to survive. He thought about the aliens on the human worlds, free to live and work as equals. He thought about the Council's cleansing protocol and what it would mean for billions of innocent humans. The choice was easy. J1's report was submitted to the Council, but it was not what they expected. Instead of revealing human locations, it contained something else entirely. It was a detailed analysis of Council failures, a list of species oppressed by Council law, and a proposal for galactic reform. "The humans are not our enemy," J1 wrote. "They are our teachers. They show us what we could become if we abandoned fear and embraced change." The report sparked chaos in the Council chambers. Some members called for Jaewon's arrest. Others demanded immediate military action against the human colonies. But a few quietly began to wonder if the human way might actually be better. As news of the report spread, more species began to question their loyalty to the Council. The revelation was complete. Humanity had not been conquered or contained. They had been liberating the galaxy one world at a time, offering freedom to any species brave enough to take it. The Galaxy Council's greatest fear had come true. The humans had indeed infected the galaxy with their ideas. But the infection was not chaos or destruction. It was hope, freedom, and the possibility of a better future for everyone. The moment for containing humanity had passed long ago. Now, the Council faced a choice of their own: evolve or become extinct. Song Hyun-woo stood on the bridge of the starship Indomitable, watching as 3 Council fleets approached from different directions. As commander of the Human Defense Forces, he had been preparing for this moment for years. But his fleet was unlike anything the Galaxy Council expected to face. Half of his ships were human-built, sleek and fast with experimental weapons and shields. The other half belonged to the species that had joined the human Commonwealth. Velkari fighters flew beside human destroyers. Nethori science vessels worked with human cruisers. The fleet was a living example of what cooperation could achieve. "Sir, the Council fleets are demanding our surrender," reported Lieutenant Kim Ji-soo from the communications station. Hyun-woo smiled. "Tell them we're not here to fight them. We're here to protect the right of every species to choose their own future." The Council had finally decided on military action. General Kexran commanded a massive force of 300 ships from the remaining loyal species. Their goal was simple: destroy the human colonies and end the rebellion once and for all. But they had underestimated what humanity had become. On New Terra, An Ji-young was performing miracles that should have been impossible. As the Commonwealth's chief terraforming expert, she had developed techniques that could transform dead worlds into garden paradises in months instead of centuries. "The secret is cooperation," Ji-young explained to a group of refugees from the war zones. "Council terraforming tries to force a planet to change. We work with the planet's natural systems and help them grow faster." She had combined human adaptability with alien knowledge from dozens of species. The Ketherani taught her about ecosystem balance. The Mordesh showed her deep soil techniques. The Zentar shared their atmospheric processors. Together they had created technology that seemed like magic. The refugee worlds were becoming beautiful and productive faster than anyone thought possible. Species that had lost their homes to Council strip mining or industrial pollution were getting new chances at life. Children who had grown up in refugee camps were now running through forests and swimming in clean lakes. Meanwhile, the battle for Earth itself was about to begin. The Council's remaining loyal species had launched Operation Final Solution. 3 fleets were heading for humanity's homeworld, carrying planet-killer weapons. Their orders were to sterilize Earth completely and end the human threat forever. What they found when they arrived was not what they expected. Earth had been transformed into a fortress world, but not in the way the Council understood fortresses. Instead of massive weapons platforms and shield generators, Earth was protected by something far more powerful: unity. Captain Park Jin-woo commanded Earth's orbital defenses. His fleet included ships from 47 different species, all working together to protect humanity's birthworld. Former Council species stood alongside their former enemies, united by human ideals of freedom and cooperation. "Council Fleet, this is Captain Park of the Earth Defense Force," Jin-woo broadcast on all frequencies. "You are approaching a protected world. We don't want to fight you, but we will defend ourselves if necessary." The Council Fleet Commander, Admiral Rothkar of the Sectari Empire, was confused by what his sensors showed. Earth's defenses were not built like any military system he understood. The ships seemed to be arranged for protection rather than attack. The orbital stations looked more like cities than weapon platforms. "Human vessel, you will surrender immediately," Rothkar demanded. "By order of the Galaxy Council, your species has been marked for extinction." No, Jinwoo replied simply. We reject your authority. Earth is a free world, and we will remain free. The battle that followed shocked the galaxy. Earth's defenders did not try to destroy the attacking fleets. Instead, they used advanced non-lethal weapons to disable enemy ships without killing their crews. Capture beams pulled disabled vessels into protective bubbles. Rescue ships immediately moved to help damaged Council vessels. What are they doing? Admiral Rothkar demanded. Why aren't they trying to kill us? His tactical officer, a young secretary named Vel Han, studied the battle data with growing amazement. Sir, they're trying to save our crews. Even while fighting us, they're rescuing our people. This was human military doctrine in action. Protect the innocent, disable the threat, and offer a better alternative. Even their enemies were treated as people who could change their minds rather than monsters who had to be destroyed. Across the galaxy, Kwon Tae-hyung was broadcasting messages to every species that would listen. As the Commonwealth's chief philosopher, he had the job of explaining humanity's vision for the future. We don't want to conquer you, Tae-hyung said in his broadcasts. We want to liberate you from the idea that conquest is necessary. We believe that every intelligent species has value, and that value increases when we work together instead of fighting each other. His words reached billions of beings across hundreds of worlds. Many had never heard ideas like these before. The concept that different species could be equals, that governments should serve their people instead of ruling them, that progress came through cooperation instead of competition. These thoughts spread like wildfire. On the Council homeworlds, populations were rising up in unprecedented numbers. The Gethmore hierarchy faced its first democratic revolution in 8,000 years. The Yoltani corporate state was experiencing worker strikes on every world. Even the ancient Sectari Empire was seeing protests in its capital cities. The cascade had begun. Each species that joined the Commonwealth inspired others to question their own governments. Each world that experienced human-style democracy wanted more freedom. Each colony that used human technology wanted to develop its own innovations. Yaren was the symbol of this new galaxy. Born on New Terra to a human father and a Kethrani mother, she was the first true hybrid child of the Commonwealth. At age 10, she already showed abilities that neither species possessed alone. She could adapt to any environment as quickly as a human, but she also had the Kethrani ability to communicate with living ecosystems. She could learn new languages in days and understand the emotional patterns of dozens of different species. Most remarkably, she could somehow help other species adapt and evolve faster when she was around them. Yaren represents our future, Dr. Yoon Hana explained to visiting dignitaries. Not human future or Kethrani future, but galactic future. When species work together instead of staying separate, we become more than the sum of our parts. The IB Council's military campaign was failing everywhere, not because they were losing battles, but because they were losing the war of ideas. Council soldiers were defecting to join the Commonwealth forces. Entire fleets were switching sides after seeing how the Commonwealth treated prisoners and refugees. General Kexran found his forces shrinking every day. The more his troops interacted with Commonwealth forces, the more they questioned why they were fighting. The humans treated captured Council soldiers better than the Council treated its own people. Sir, we're receiving surrender requests from the 4th Fleet, his aide reported. Admiral Keltar says his crews refuse to fire on refugee transports. This is impossible, Kexran muttered. How are they defeating us without winning battles? Answer was simple but revolutionary. Humans had weaponized compassion. They fought to protect rather than destroy. They offered hope instead of fear. They showed every species they encountered that there was a better way to live. The final blow came when Earth's defenders managed to disable Admiral Rothkar's flagship without harming anyone aboard. As rescue teams helped evacuate the Council crew, Rothkar found himself face-to-face with Captain Park Jinwoo. Why didn't you kill us? The Council Admiral asked. Park smiled. Because you're not our enemy. You're just people who haven't learned yet that there's a better way to solve problems than violence. Rothkar looked around at the human rescue teams, treating his wounded soldiers with the same care they gave their own people. He saw Council prisoners being offered food, medical care, and the chance to contact their families. He realized that everything the council had told him about human brutality was a lie. "What do you want from us?" he asked. "Nothing," Park replied. "We want to give you something, the chance to be free, to make your own choices, to build a better future for your people, the same thing we want for everyone." As news of Rothkar's surrender spread across the galaxy, the cascade accelerated. 17 more species declared their independence from the Council and requested Commonwealth protection. The Council's authority was crumbling not through military defeat, but through the simple power of a better idea. The galaxy was changing faster than anyone had thought possible. The old order of rigid hierarchy and controlled development was giving way to something new and dynamic. Species that had been enemies for millennia were learning to work together. Worlds that had been stagnant for thousands of years were experiencing rapid growth and innovation. By the end of the year, 80% of the galaxy had joined or allied with the human Commonwealth. The Council still controlled their core, worlds, but their empire was finished. The cascade of change had become unstoppable. Humanity had won the greatest victory in galactic history without conquering anyone. They had simply offered freedom, and the galaxy had chosen to accept it. Kim Do-yoon walked through the halls of the former Council Station Nexus 7, now renamed Unity Station. As the first speaker of the Galactic Assembly, he represented 847 different species. The station had been transformed, from a symbol of rigid control into a place where every voice could be heard. 1 year had passed since the Galaxy Council's collapse. The transformation had been faster and more complete than anyone imagined possible. What had once been an empire built on fear and control was now a confederation based on cooperation and mutual respect. Do-hyun had been a refugee from Earth when he was young. His family escaped during the early days of the Council's monitoring, traveling in a small ship to the outer colonies. He grew up on New Terra, learned about democracy and freedom, and eventually became a diplomat. Now he led the largest democratic government in galactic history. "The morning reports, Speaker," said his aide, Lieutenant Commander Park Soo-young. The daily briefings covered activities across thousands of worlds, but the news was consistently positive. Crime rates were falling. Technological development was accelerating, and species that had been enemies for millennia were becoming friends. The secret was the translation and empathy technology developed by human scientists. Dr. Shin Ariam had led the team that created universal translators that didn't just convert words, but also helped different species understand each other's emotions and thought patterns. "Communication is more than language," Ariam explained to the Assembly's Science Committee. "We've learned to translate feelings, cultural concepts, and even humor between species. When you can really understand someone else's perspective, it's much harder to hate them." The technology had revolutionary effects. Trade negotiations that used to take years were now completed in weeks. Diplomatic disputes were resolved through understanding rather than force. Even more amazingly, mixed species research teams were making scientific breakthroughs at an unprecedented rate. "Each species sees the universe differently," Ariam continued. "Humans think in terms of adaptation and change. The Velkari think in terms of harmony and balance. The Mordesh think in terms of deep time and patience. When we combine these different viewpoints, we can solve problems that no single species could handle alone." The results spoke for themselves. In 1 year, the Commonwealth had developed faster than light travel that was 10 times more efficient than Council technology. They had created medical treatments that worked on dozens of different alien biologies. They had solved environmental problems that had plagued some worlds for centuries. But the most important discovery was something that explained humanity's true impact on the galaxy. Go Jinsel was preparing for the most ambitious mission in galactic history. As captain of the exploration ship New Horizons, she would lead the first mixed-species crew beyond the galaxy's edge. Strange signals had been detected from neighboring galaxies, suggesting that intelligence existed on a scale they had never imagined. "The ship is ready," Jinsel reported to the Assembly. "We have crew members from 43 different species, using technology contributed by all of them. We're not just representing humanity anymore. We're representing everyone." The crew selection had been a marvel of cooperation. Each species contributed their best people, not for conquest or profit, but for the simple joy of discovery. Scientists, engineers, diplomats, and explorers from across the galaxy were working together as equals. Before the mission launched, Dr. Ariam made a final announcement that changed how everyone understood what had happened to the galaxy. "We've discovered why human contact causes such rapid development in other species," she told the assembly. "Humans carry something in their genetic code that we're calling the catalyst factor. When humans interact closely with other species, both groups evolve faster." The research had taken months of careful study, but the results were clear. Human DNA contained dormant sequences that activated in the presence of alien genetic material. At the same time, alien species experienced genetic activation when exposed to human influence. It wasn't just cultural exchange, it was biological evolution happening in real time. "This is why the Council was afraid of us," Ariam explained. "They sensed that humans would change everything they touched. They were right, but they didn't understand that change would make everything better." The Velkari had developed enhanced telepathic abilities after working with humans. The Mordesh had gained improved problem-solving skills. The Zentar had developed new forms of artistic expression. Every species that joined the Commonwealth became more than they had been before. But humans had changed too. The colonists on different worlds had developed specialized abilities that made them uniquely suited to their environments. More importantly, they had gained a deeper understanding of cooperation and empathy from their alien partners. Yeren, now 11 years old, had become the unofficial ambassador between species. Her hybrid nature allowed her to communicate with anyone, understand any culture, and help resolve conflicts that others found impossible. "She's not just human or Kethrani," her teacher explained. "She's something new, something that could only exist in our mixed society. She represents what all our children could become if we continue working together." The former council worlds were experiencing their own transformations. The Sectari Empire had become the Sectari Republic, with elected leaders and guaranteed rights for all citizens. The Gethmore hierarchy had reorganized into cooperative guilds that shared resources and knowledge freely. Even the most stubborn council loyalists were beginning to change. Admiral Rothkar, who had once tried to destroy Earth, now served as head of the Interspecies Peacekeeping Force. His job was to protect any species that wanted to join the Commonwealth from those that still believed in the old ways of conquest and control. "I spent 40 years believing that order came from control," Rothkar said in his speech accepting the position. "The humans taught me that order comes from cooperation. Fear keeps things stable, but hope makes them grow." As Do Yun prepared for the daily assembly session, he reflected on how much had changed. The old Galaxy Council had 847 member species, but only 12 had any real power. The new assembly gave every species an equal voice, regardless of their size, technology level, or military strength. The session began with reports from across the galaxy. A new trade route had been established between former enemies. A joint research project had found a cure for a plague that had affected 3 star systems. A diplomatic mission had successfully mediated a territorial dispute without any violence. "Economics alone are staggering," reported the Assembly's trade coordinator. "Galactic productivity has increased by 400% in just 1 year. When species cooperate instead of compete, everyone benefits." But the most important moment came when the Assembly received a message from the edge of known space. Captain Jinsel's exploration ship had made contact with an advanced civilization in the Andromeda Galaxy. "They call themselves the Harmony," Jinsel reported via long-range communication. "They've been watching our galaxy for thousands of years, waiting for us to develop beyond warfare and conquest. They say humanity triggered something they've been hoping for, the evolution of an entire galaxy toward cooperation." The message continued with an invitation. The Harmony wanted to welcome the Commonwealth into a larger community of galaxies that had learned to work together. But they warned that not all galaxies had made this transition. Some were still dominated by species that believed in conquest and control. "We may face challenges that make the Council look like a small problem," Jinsel warned, "but we'll face them together as equals." Do Yun smiled as he listened to the report. The Galaxy Council had been right about one thing. Humans were dangerous. They were dangerous to tyranny, dangerous to stagnation, and dangerous to the idea that some species were meant to rule while others served. But they had been wrong about the solution. Isolation and prohibition had never been possible. From the moment humans reached the stars, change had been inevitable. The choice had never been whether to let humans into galactic society, but whether to embrace the changes they brought or fight a losing battle against evolution itself. The Council feared that humans would infect the galaxy with chaos, Do-hyun said in his closing remarks to the assembly. They were right about the infection but wrong about the disease. We infected the galaxy with hope, and hope is the most contagious thing in the universe. As the session ended, Do-hyun looked out at the great viewing window that showed the galaxy beyond. Millions of stars shone in the darkness, and around many of them, different species were working together to build something better than they could create alone. The prohibition had failed because it had come too late. The moment humanity reached the stars, the old galaxy had begun to die and a new one had begun to be born. It was a galaxy where every species could reach its full potential, where diversity was strength, and where the greatest adventures still lay ahead. The new dawn was not just beginning. It was already here, shining brighter than anyone had dared to dream.